Panama City Beach. We're thankful for everyone here, and we've got a lot of great announcements today and a lot of great presentations. And so my wife Casey will be saying a lot about Hope, Florida. I'll say some, and then I'll let her take it away. We're also joined by our Florida Department of Children and Families Secretary Siobhan Harris, Eric Dellenbach, who's our Governor's Liaison for Faith and Community, and then Amy Floyd, Head of Care Portal Response Team for the First Baptist Church of Pensacola. So thank you guys for coming. We're also joined by Pastor Raymond Duval from here at Beachside Fellowship Church, Senator Trumbull, where's he at? You got Jay Trumbull, and we've got Representatives Griffiths, Abbott, and Temple. So I want to thank you guys for coming, and thanks for what you've been able to do. So when I became governor, we obviously looked for a lot of ways to be able to make a difference, and we have across so many different areas. If you look at Florida, we were just ranked #1 in education 2 years in a row by U.S. News and World Report. Trust me, they do not want to rank Florida #1. It pains them to have to do that. We're #1 for education freedom, and we have more school choice than any state in American history. We're #1 for parental empowerment of in education, parents' rights. We are 50-year low in the crime rate. We're #1 for net in-migration every year since I've been governor. We have the lowest per capita debt of any state in the country. Your share of Florida's debt, and we've paid down 25% of it just since I've been governor. If we had to pay it all off and every Floridian had to write a check, you'd have to write about a $600 check. Now, if that happened in the federal government and you had to pay your share of you'd have to do over $100,000 per American citizen. So it's a much different view in terms of how we're doing about that. We've done a lot on environmental restoration, making sure that our beaches are nourished, making sure we have clean water. And I just announced the largest Gulf red snapper season in history that we've been able to have. And many, many more things. But one of the things that I think we've done so well, and we now have states come copying what we're doing, and it was spearheaded by my wife, the First Lady, and that's the creation of Hope, Florida. And what Hope, Florida basically is premised on is government is not the solution to society problems, particularly when you talk about people that need means-tested welfare. To just simply give checks from the government, that does not lift people up, that does not open the horizons. What that typically does is that creates incentives so that you develop a culture of dependency on those systems. And we've seen trillions and trillions of dollars spent in the United States of America since the 1960s. A lot of it has been all for naught. Some of it has actually made the problem worse. And so if you're having these things, but we also understand there's times people are in need. I mean, it's just life where this happens. So how do you do that in a way that's actually going to lift people up, that's going to put them on the pathway to independence and self-sufficiency? And so that's where Hope, Florida has really come in. Hope, Florida recognizes that going in and interfacing with the government bureau, if that's all there is, we're likely not going to have much success. But we have all these other resources in our state and in our communities. We are one of the few states that actually has embraced the faith-based community as solutions to these pressing problems. And so we've said, okay, you go into an office, that's not going to be the end of it. We're going to make sure that we connect the churches, the volunteer groups, businesses, even individuals who want to volunteer, so that they're now a touch away through this care portal, where if somebody needs something, it's not just whether government can do it. You get a message here at the church saying, we got a mom that needs a place to stay. And guess what? Who's going to be more responsive to those things? Our charities, our churches, our businesses, our individuals, or bureaucracy. Of course you're going to have the churches and the nonprofits, and those do more. So that's what it's done. And I think people, when they hear about that, they intuitively think it's a good idea. They understand the limits of bureaucracy. They understand how red tape is bad. They understand how these programs are oftentimes incentivized to keep people on it. You know, we believe that the sign of success is how many people are getting off these programs, because that's ultimately the goal. You don't want to be dependent on a program. You want to be able to live your life. And so that's what and I think people get that. But the question is okay, you may have good intentions on this, but how do you make that work? And so, you know, I'm proud to say that we have, since this program has been launched, and I mean, we kind of started it when I first became governor, but it really, with the portal and everything, has not been in existence that long, just a couple of years. We've had 100,000 Floridians that have been connected to assistance. We have 30,000, almost 30,000 Hope Florida participants have either reduced or completely eliminated their reliance on public assistance altogether. And that is a success. So the results are 73% of Hope Florida participants who had an employment barrier were able to find a job. 62% of participants who had a housing barrier were able to find stable housing. 68% of participants with a child care barrier were able to find long-term support. 66% of participants with the basic needs barrier received services to meet those needs. And 787 former foster youth have received help accessing a college or university tuition waiver. If you look, we've got close to 100,000 Floridians referred, as I said. There's almost 5,000 network partners with Hope Florida throughout the state of Florida. That is like a major force multiplier, because I bet you each one of them does things that a government bureaucracy could not do. So we're really proud about that. And of the 4,900 network partners, we have 1,210 faith-based partners in the state of Florida. And you talk about some of these difficulties in life. You know, it's not just about statecraft. People need soulcraft. They need to be able to have that type of those type of resources provided. And I think you've seen with these numbers that has worked. So, and this is just the right thing to do, but it's also beneficial for taxpayers, because as you get people off this government assistance, we're able to save taxpayers almost $100 million per year. And so over the 10-year period, we think that that'll be close to $800 million. So I mean, you start talking about saving $1 billion, that's good. Now, granted, we've got a big budget surplus in Florida. We pay down debt. We cut taxes. We do, you know, I'm doing this, the infrastructure. We're doing more infrastructure to build these roads. We're doing all this stuff. We're very stable fiscally. We have a AAA credit rating. Our credit's better than the United States government's credit rating, although that's not that difficult nowadays, I guess. And so you see time and time again, but still, you're the taxpayer. We need to be good stewards. If there's ways that we can deliver services better and save money, we have an obligation to do that. It doesn't matter how flush we are with revenue, and that's exactly what we've done. So I'm just very proud as a Floridian that we have a program like this in action, and I also know it would not have been possible without the young lady standing next to me, so I want to bring her up.
You better say young, because sometimes I'm not feeling it like that much anymore, especially trying to get a 7-year-old and a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old out the door every morning. But no, I just want to say, first of all, thank you to the governor. And I wanted to say that publicly. I tell him that behind closed doors all of the time, because it really is very special when you feel empowered to be able to make a difference. He has allowed me an unbelievable opportunity to be able to sit down with secretaries and agency heads and really travel all across the state of Florida to talk to the key stakeholders, because this is where it all came together. It wasn't us sitting in a room from a top-down approach thinking that we knew best what everybody needed. It was getting into rooms and listening to folks. And what we found very quickly was that there's a lot of really good things happening, but it's all siloed, right? You had seen the private sector and the nonprofits and the local government and the faith-based community all doing wonderful things, but kind of hoeing their individual roads. So we wanted to think differently about how government operates as it pertains to what I believe, and I think a lot of people think, tapping into one of the biggest untapped resources as it pertains to coordination and communication and collaboration with government, and that is the faith-based community. Eric Dellenbeck will tell you we have 16.5 million people of faith, 20,000 institutions of faith. Imagine what we can do when you have some of the most vulnerable people in society coming into the Department of Children and Families, and instead of giving them a TANF grant check or SNAP benefits, of course you help people when they're in need, clearly. But what if we thought differently? What if we reached out to the faith-based community and the nonprofits and the charities, and we let people know, hey, there's a single mom down the street who really needs help putting food on the table. Can you help? And we've done that in the state of Florida. We're the first state to do that. So now, through using our Care Portal technology, literally our Hope Navigators are inputting that into the system, sending it out to our participating faith-based communities and also the private sector, and saying, hey, can you help the single mom? She's having a hard time putting food on the table. And they're like, yes, they got it. And all of the faith-based communities compete to see who can get it first. And literally, and I've done this firsthand, I've done this with the secretary, I've done this with Eric Dellenbeck, we show up at their front doorstep with food to say, hey, I heard you were struggling. Do you need some help? Here's some food. What else do you need? And it's a game changer. Because yes, you're meeting immediate needs, but you're also letting these people who are suffering sometimes alone know that the entire community is ready to rally behind you. It's just the faith-based community never knew that they were there. So government is uniquely positioned now to communicate and collaborate between good people in need of help and good people who are willing to help. And then government makes the connection and they get out of the way. And I'll tell you, yes, we talk about transitioning off more than 20,000 people from government assistance, and yes, that is important. Yes, that's a good ROI for the taxpayer. Yes, you're seeing people enabled and empowered to live up to their God-given potential because you're giving them the resources and the tools to be able to do so. But one thing that we are working on calculating, which is really important, is the preventative side of this. Because government too often waits for a problem to happen and then they react afterwards. And a lot of times the outcomes aren't as good, and we're spending more money, and it's not good for the individual. But now we're getting in front of it. So I'll give you an example. Our CPIs, our child protective investigators, they're on the front lines. They go out and they investigate suspected child abuse or neglect, and they're making critical decisions as to what happens in that family. Do you take children away? Do you not take children away? Up until the governor took office, what would typically happen is if they noticed that there was a problem, but they didn't see any evidence to take any children away, that would be pretty much where it ends. That changed under his tenure. Now you can go in and you can get connected with the Hope Florida hotline, because now these navigators can triage whatever immediate needs that they might have by looking exterior of government to the faith-based community, the nonprofits, the private sector, putting the pieces together. And why this is so valuable too is because, for instance, like a single mom, man, she doesn't want to have to repeat her story 10,000 times, right? She wants to be able to get help and also to know where to get help, because I often say you can have the best resources in the world, and if you don't know that they exist, what good are they? So you have this navigator putting the pieces together for this mom so she doesn't have to go in this door and that door and that door and say her story 10,000 times. And then, yes, meeting immediate needs is important. Transitioning off government assistance is important because it's empowering people to live up to their God-given potential. But it's more than that. And it is what this entire program is all about. And it is hope. Hope for a better day. Hope for your kids. Hope for yourself. Hope that this too shall pass. And we can only do that by bringing the government in communication and collaboration, coordination with the key people on the ground in the community. And so we talk about that philosophical difference. That number that he cited, the $800 million over 10 years and how many people we're helping, that's one agency. That's the Department of Children and Families. Take that philosophically different approach to government, where we're looking exterior, bringing in the faith-based community, and now let's apply it to the Department of Veterans Affairs, because we're doing it. So imagine if you have a veteran who's at home alone, how meaningful would it be if the faith-based community knew that that veteran was there and they showed up at his front doorstep or her front doorstep with a plate of lasagna? That's a game changer. And then not only are you doing that through what he has done to lead the nation through things like providing a career source, or through Department of Education, rapid credentialing, vocational and technical education, all of these really great programs providing opportunities for our veterans or our single moms or our families or whomever it might be. Elder Affairs, we've applied this to. Giving those opportunities to them so that they can find their pathway to prosperity. And so it's putting all of the pieces together. And it's really exciting to be a part of this. And again, this would not happen. We would not be here if you did not have Ron DeSantis as the governor of this great state. So I am privileged and honored to get out of the way and let him continue.
Well, we're going to recognize, so I think maybe if you guys just do the checks right in front here, like, so you go right in front on the ground, so this way they don't have to go up the stairs. So First Lady's going to hand you a check. So we have people here who are receiving funds. So obviously Hope Florida is part of what government is doing, but there's also an attached 501c3 charitable group where people have contributed money, and it allows you to be able to make charitable grants, groups that are part of Hope Florida doing a good job, and help them. So it's not the taxpayers giving them money here. These are all charity funds that are going to groups that have really made a difference. And so I am going to call up each group. I'll kind of narrate, each snap a pic with the First Lady, then we'll go on to the next. So the first one, first recipient is Vision of Hope. Jane Simmons founded Vision of Hope after she retired from the Exceptional Student Education Department. Her mission was to provide school to workforce transitional assistance to young adults with unique abilities. I would get right in the middle here so that they can get a clean picture of you guys. Yep.
I don't think they know they're getting these checks.
Oh, you didn't know that? Okay, good. You're getting the check. So. Congratulations. All right. Next, I'd like to bring up St. Andrew Christian Care Center from right here in Bay County. St. Andrew Christian Center is one of the largest food pantries in Bay County, providing food and clothing to hundreds of people each week. Last year, they served over 16,000 families, which consisted of nearly 60,000 people, distributed over 1 million pounds of food through their benevolence ministry. They also operate a pregnancy care ministry called A Sheltering Tree to provide mothers with safe and confidential assistance. Thank you. Next up, Be Generous. Be Generous was founded by Stephanie McMinn to support and assist women in overcoming substance abuse and sexual exploitation. They offer a 24-month Christ-centered residential recovery program and safe homes for women to recover and restore healthy relationships with their kids and family. They also provide trauma-informed care, pastoral counsel, space for inner healing, life skills, addiction, and relapse prevention, as well as further education. So congratulations. Next up, First Baptist Church of Pensacola. We're proud to highlight First Baptist Church as one of the top 5 Care Portal churches in the entire state of Florida. So, the Care Portal is the online program operated by Hope Florida to communicate needs to all of our participating institutions, including churches. And as a need is posted, churches can compete to be the first to fill the need. Some of our top churches, like First Baptist in Pensacola, have fulfilled hundreds of needs. First Baptist filled over 200 Care Portal need requests and counting. Of course, First Baptist also runs a church-to-church ministry where they partner with other local churches to serve food to families in the need area. They also operate Samaritan Hands, where volunteers work to meet both physical and spiritual needs with food, clothing, shoes, utility assistance, and related services. So thanks for being a part of this. Next up, A Bed for Me Foundation. This serves children ages 2 to 18 from low to middle income families within the Okaloosa and Walton County area. They provide twin mattresses, bed frames, pillows, sheets, and comforter sets to children who do not have beds due to economic struggles, as well as displaced families starting over due to domestic issues. Next, I'd like to recognize Food for Thought Outreach. This started as a small family project to serve food insecure students with a $300 budget. Founder Tiffany Nelson partnered with her son's school to begin providing critical access to food to children in need. Over the past 11 years, Food for Thought has grown into the go-to organization for fighting childhood hunger in Walton and Okaloosa counties, providing weekly access to food to 3,600 food insecure school-age children across 35 school locations. And last but not least, I would like to call up Caring and Sharing of South Walton. Caring and Sharing of South Walton provides crisis relief through financial assistance, clothing assistance, food pantry assistance, rent, utility, and prescription assistance. Thank you for making a difference in our communities. All right, well, good on you. Thank you for what you've been doing, and I'm glad that you were able to get some support from the Hope Florida Fund. Next, we'll hear from our remaining speakers, so we'll start with our Secretary of Department of Children and Families, Siobhan Harris.
Good morning, and thank you so much, Governor DeSantis and First Lady DeSantis, for your unwavering support of families in need and your continued investment in the growth of this amazing program. When we implemented this program in DCF in 2021, I knew it would be transformative and change the way that we do business at DCF. But fast forward 2 years later, I am in absolute awe at what it has accomplished, the conversations it has evoked, and the hope it has provided in tackling decades-old problems. It serves as an alternative pathway for families who would otherwise get caught on that never-ending hamster wheel that leads to over-reliance on government assistance. It helps to eliminate the silo between faith institutions and government to more effectively serve vulnerable families. And it's the antidote to bureaucracy, making it easier for organizations doing good to partner more seamlessly with government on a shared mission. So if you ask me, does the program work? Unequivocally, yes, yes, and more yes. We see success in the story of the single mom who found the courage to leave an abusive relationship and then contacted us for help, through nonprofits like the one who were awarded this morning, and through our partnership with CareerSource Florida, her Hope Navigator was able to work with her to put the puzzle pieces back together. Then there's the wife who just turned 60 and also had her husband leave her at the same time. When she called, she was distraught, didn't know where to turn because she'd been a single mom, hadn't been in the workforce for years. But by strategically linking her to the right partners, she found a new interest and career path as a home health aide and loved it so much she wanted to become a certified nursing assistant. When she graduated from the program, she had just passed her CNA exam. Our Hope Navigators help individuals find within themselves the grit and resiliency that they always possess to build a better tomorrow. It's transforming how we support families who are child welfare involved, as you heard from the First Lady. So many families that we go out and do investigations on. We actually get over 2,000 calls to our 200,000 calls to our abuse hotline every single year So many of those families are in need of support and help. Someone was really, really worried about that child and that family, and we want to make sure that we're linking them to the right kinds of resources and they're not getting caught up on waiting lists for services or waiting on a call back from a provider. And through this program, we are assured that those families are linked to the right services at the right time. So it's not hard to get excited about this program, and as you heard the governor say, we're being contacted by states wanting to know more about it because they want to replicate it. These successes obviously would not be possible without the heart and compassion of the First Lady. She continues to innovate, cheer us on, to expand the program and find new ways to serve families in need. And then, of course, because we have the best governor in the nation who's cast a vision for our state, which has resulted in a strong economy, record low unemployment, and enhanced job training programs, individuals willing to put in the hard work can achieve their dreams. I'm also thankful to all of our partners, whether you're a faith institution, a nonprofit, a fellow sister state agency, or private sector partner, you are making a difference. So thank you.
Thank you, Governor. I believe that our time together today will be a moment that you look back on at some point and say, I remember when. I think it's that profound. Like the numbers that the governor just laid out through his boldness, what's happening in our state is not something that we should glaze over. There is a movement happening through the vision of the First Lady and what's happening in Hope, Florida that is unique to the country, and that's what I want to share a little bit with you today. My name is Eric Dellenbach, as he mentioned, and I've gotten, for the past 5 years, had the honor of serving as the governor's liaison for faith and community. And what that means is that I have the honor of representing the governor and First Lady's faith, but more importantly, their commitment to faith and community throughout our state. We have 20,000 faith institutions in our state, over 110,000 nonprofits, and we get to be their voice into the executive office of the governor. The governor's bold commitment to faith started, as he said, on day one. The question became, if we embrace faith and community, how can we best serve our vulnerable populations? And I have to tell you that that boldness, for some perspective, there's only 14 states in the country that have given faith and community any voice in state government. And I will tell you that I talk with all 14 of those states, and Florida is a lighthouse and a beacon example for the rest of the country right now. Yeah. There is no state where faith and community has been given a greater voice or level of importance than here in the state of Florida. What's happening with Hope Florida will be a profound thing that will sweep across the country. I'm 100% confident of it. There are 3 core pieces I want you to recognize about Hope Florida in our time together today. First, we recognize that the faith and community organizations of our state have been serving on the front line in the gap since the history of the state. We are not creating something new. We know that you've been serving the front line forever. Secondly, we believe that hope doesn't come from grander government, but rather from the faith and community organizations of that state. Another way to say that would be to say nobody serves a community like the faith and community organizations of that community. And third, and I think this is the super profound piece of Hope Florida, is we do not in our state have a resource issue, but we do have a connectivity issue. What has happened for so long is that there have been many people in need, and yet there's been 16 million people who weekly hear about caring for people in need, and yet that connection has not always been made. That is the role of government. In what's been formed through Hope Florida, the role of government is to expose our faith institutions and community organizations to the people in their greatest hour of need. In fact, I want to take just a moment and recognize in this room, it was my honor to get to say this part, is if you in this room are part of the machine of the Hope Florida movement, I love calling it the Hope Florida movement, and you are a person who enters a need, you're on the front line as a police officer, a fire department, you're a caseworker, you're a CPI, you're a child protective investigator, you're a Hope navigator, or you're a lead agency, would you raise your hand? Thank you. Thank you for entering our needs. On the flip side, if you're a need meter, if you're a church, a faith institution, a nonprofit, or an individual that's been meeting needs, will you raise your hand? Oh, I love it. Thank you so much. You know just from that that we do not have a connectivity issue. I mean, we do not have a resource issue, we have a connectivity issue. I would offer to you that our country was not built on the idea that we were best served by government, but rather by our faith and community organizations. We believe that this was God's plan A, was our faith and community organizations. And the role that we play in government, as you've heard several times today, is to make a connection and get government out of the way. I've just traveled to 30 cities in Florida and gotten to share this message, and I want to tell you it's working. The First Lady said it, that we're seeing change through our faith and community organizations in the Department of Children and Families, in the Department of Juvenile Justice, in the Department of the Agency for People with Disabilities, in the Department of Veteran Affairs, and the Department of Elder Affairs. Friends, Florida is leading. I hope that makes you excited. As a native Floridian, I love when we're leading, but I don't know that there's anything that we could be leading in that's more important in figuring out a way to make it where our faith and community organizations know who our vulnerable population's in, and it does not matter what government does. I want to end with this. Prior to joining the governor's team, I spent 8 years running the Tim Tebow Foundation, where Tim and I started something called Night to Shine. It's a prom for people with special needs. I then spent a couple years after that working for Chris Tomlin and starting his foundation, which is called Angel Armies. And I share that because during that time, I learned something very, very important. There are moments in your life that you see something that you cannot unsee. I would think in this room there would be many people that there was an experience that you saw, heard, or experienced that changed the trajectory of your life because you saw it and you could never unsee it. Friends, I think that is what Hope Florida is doing. I think it's bringing exposure through the fact that the Secretary knows the name, address, and story of every child that's in our foster care system. And through the doors of Hope Florida, we are opening that information to be able to share with you, with parents' permission, to share with you the needs that are happening so that you can know these kids. Our goal, I believe, is to help people see things they can no longer unsee. And that is what is happening through Hope Florida. And the statistic I want to leave you with that encourages me the most is that through Hope Florida and Care Portal, I just let this one sit in, what we've seen is that when a need gets entered on the system and our faith institution or community organization shows up and they're standing on that front door with food, a bed, a car seat, diapers, clothes, whatever that is, we're seeing to almost the 80th percentile, that family does not enter a second need. Why? Well, it's not because they don't have more needs. It's simply because our faith institutions and our community organizations have seen that family. And from that moment forward, that family is not a government family. They're a faith and community family. And that is an imperative part of what's happening here, is that we are moving families, as the governor said, from government to our faith and community organizations. That's why I tell you that today is profound. It is simple but profound. I hope it's a day that blesses you. I hope it's a day you remember for the rest of your life. And I'm so grateful, since I don't get to say it publicly enough, what you're doing, because I get to talk to every state, is bolder than anything that's happening in the country and giving faith and community a voice. So thank you, and God bless both of you so much.
All right.
Hello, thank y'all for including me in this impressive crowd that gathered here today in Panama City. I'm Amy from First Baptist Church, Pensacola. When the church deploys to minister to foster children and their foster families, lives are changed. Care Portal opened the door for us at First Baptist Pensacola. Sometimes Jesus looks like a stranger on your front porch with a bag of groceries, a bed, or other needs like diapers and wipes. And this is the heartbeat of our foster ministry. We want to be the hands and feet of Jesus as we serve these children and families in our local communities who are in crisis. We do this because we love Jesus. Our team has over 50 volunteers from our church and other Christians in our community who are the Big C Church, serving these children and families in our neighborhoods. After their immediate needs are met, like Eric said, we engage these families in many other aspects in our ministry. Our ministry at First Baptist includes a summer camp and monthly mentoring for local foster children. This will be our 10th year, and we take about 50 kids and 65 loving and brave adult volunteers. We meet the needs of our new caregivers through Care Portal. This gives us an opportunity to meet the families so we can establish important relationships and find other ways to engage with them. We have Ignite, a weekly tutoring and mentoring program for children and their caregivers. Tutoring is the #1 requested resource for foster families. We also partner with other local churches and organizations to support these families. Groups like Feed Fosters, Breakfast with Santa, the Blue Angels, Christian Surfers, and many other are part of the network. These ministries all complement each other in wrapping around these families as they stand in the gap to care for our children. Many of our kinship caregivers are so overwhelmed by unexpectedly taking in these kiddos, they can't even raise their hands for help. When we show up to meet their urgent needs, we begin a relationship with these families that opens the door to finding other ways we can serve them as they navigate through this often challenging time. Like I said in the beginning, sometimes this is what Jesus looks like to a foster family in need: a caring stranger on the porch with a casserole or a care package. And that caring stranger becomes a Christian encourager to that child and family. We thank God for the privilege to minister to these foster families. But I want to say in closing, the coolest thing about Care Portal is it allows us to show up for these families. We pray with them. We step into their brokenness and their exhaustion and their vulnerability, and we serve them in the name of Jesus. We're not bashful. We show up and we let them know why we're here. We allow ourselves to get uncomfortable, and that's what we're called to do. We develop relationships and celebrate birthdays and successes. We're able to encourage them and walk alongside them on those hard days. I love the quote by Maya Angelou that says, "Do the best you can until you know better. And when you know better, do better." We all know that Jesus is the answer for the crisis in our families. And at First Baptist Pensacola, we're just thankful that we get to represent him on their porch. Eric asked me to close with a text that I shared with him from one of our kinship caregivers that we recently served. And she sent and said, "I'm so grateful for everything all of you have done. It feels good to know God has not forgotten us, especially with all that we have been through trying to get situated with these babies that have rerouted our lives. I was at a low moment yesterday, and you really touched my soul." So thank y'all.
All right. Well, great. Well, we're excited to be able to do these awards. I mean, I don't know, what was the total amount we were able to hand out today? I mean, it was a significant, 140,000, and that's just for this region of the state. You know, so we focused on Bay, you know, Walton, Okaloosa, Escambia, those counties. We've got others in other regions of the state, so we're going to be doing a lot more on the charitable side in addition to what we're doing through our government agencies. So those of you who are involved in this, thank you for your involvement. If you're out there and you want to be helpful and you didn't know you can do it, now you know. So you have an opportunity to become a part of the program, and it has worked. And I think there's more that we can do, obviously. But I mean, how often do you? Yeah, there's certain things you can do in government that can work. Like, you know, we had the Hurricane Ian, the bridge, 2 bridges were gone. You either build it or you don't, right? I mean, like, you build it, people go. That's the success. But when you start talking about when folks are in need, I mean, there's so many different things that are involved with that, and bureaucracies typically don't produce good results. So the fact that you've seen the results that we've seen through Hope Florida, that is not normal in terms of how people perform in this realm of public policy. So I want to again thank the First Lady. I want to thank everybody that's been involved, and the best is yet to come. Thank you.